Welcome back to the Williams Real Estate Channel. I'm your host, Geordie Williams, and today you guys are in for a treat. We have Rory James Williams,
Hey,
5
bro.
properties before 25. As you're already aware, this guy has been on a power train, smashing through it.
How you going?
So, Rory's my youngest, or my younger brother. He's been working at it pretty hard, 25 years of age, 5 properties. Very inspirational backstory. So strap yourselves in tonight and enjoy this one. Tell us a bit about your background story, getting into property, investing, school, uni, career. What's your story, mate?
So I guess we'll start. I
Story
finished
with the
school in.
bow. What's this?
It was a November mow. Now it's a summer mow. But where did I start? I guess I finished school in 2016. Pretty much went to uni straight away. Had the idea that I was going to start building towards a career in the construction industry. So ended up starting a course in civil engineering. Did 2 years. Just casual work, labouring, working at pubs, whatnot. Then after 2 years, went for a cadetship, or tried for a few building firms, failed a few interviews, and eventually landed one at FDC, commercial builder. Did 2 week internship there, and I've been there for just over 5 years now as a CA, working on university buildings, data centers, a few sheds out west, a bit of a mix. And then, been there since. And then
So
I've
for,
always,
for CA, people who don't know what a CA is, what's a CA?
So my title is a contract administrator. So I look after the finance of a project. So as a builder, we don't build anything. We manage subcontractors. So I'll go to the market. I'll find a sparky. I'll find a concreter. I'll find a plumber, a roofer, so on, and then I'll sign them up to the scope of works. I'll write the scope. This is a scope based on the drawings. This is what the client wants. I go to market, get the best price, best contractor for the job, sign them up, stitch them up, and then manage them throughout the building of the site, and goal to make money once we hand over the keys to the client. So looking at more the commercial side of the build, and then kind of hand over to the site team who run the day-to-day guys on site. So that's kind of my role at the moment, which is working nicely in building property portfolio and doing little renos on the side and trying to make that work. So
I mean, that's really the career has clearly set the foundation, I guess, for what we're about to talk to about your property investing as well. But with solid construction experience, contracts management, financial management, managing contractors, managing all types of personalities, I'm sure.
The circus.
Yeah, which comes with managing a portfolio, because at the end of the day, it's you own, I guess, the hard assets, and you need that solid, I guess, skill set, which is a necessity to manage those portfolios. So that's solid. Christmas push, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, always. I'm just keen to close the doors and start next year on a fresh note. Need a break. But
How many hours
yeah,
those? 70 hours, 80 hours?
What's that?
How many,
Hours?
how many hours a week?
Average probably 11 hours a day at the screen, long time. So it's good to get out in the sun, mix it up a bit. But on to what I started FTC 5 years ago, and then I've always had this thought or this idea that I want to start I guess it was always a side hustle. How do I make more money on the side? And I remember I was looking at new things that didn't come to fruition, or wasn't that keen on. I was looking at drop shipping. I bought shares. I bought crypto. I tried to short the market. I tried to start a retail clothing brand. I tried to sell vintage T-shirts. Didn't really make money, lost a bit of money, and then I remember I was speaking to one of your mates, Jonty, about his clothing business, about how he was selling board shorts at the markets, and you overheard me and said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Oh, I'm just looking at potentially starting my own clothing brand." And you're like, "Don't be stupid. Why do you buy a property? What are you going to pour money into your retail business without buying an investment first?" So prioritize that, and that's kind of what pushed me into to buy my first one and leveraging that to buy more. So
And
credit to you, George.
never looked back. And and then what was the first step into, I guess, getting into property? Like,
As a
wise, did you have to offload a car or sell some toys or?
uh, yeah, I actually I got my car got written off when I was at work because some young punk crashed into me and ended up getting written off. Got a bit of a payout from it, so I had that, and I had some savings that I end up saving when I'm doing my casual work, and obviously was at home when I'm first started work, so I wasn't spending too much money. So building deposit, I saved up about 60 grand, I think. Thought I was rich, 60 grand, and then I end up spending that majority of that to get in my first one, which I bought for 285,000 back in June, no, August 2020.
So yeah, so where was this one? The first one?
First one's in Horseshoe Bend, so near Maitland, up near Newcastle, about half an hour inland of Newcastle,
Up in the Hunter Valley,
in the Hunter Valley. Yeah,
large country.
nice country, surrounded by swampland. Went out there, I was looking at places around similar area. Bit nervous, didn't know what I wanted. End up finding this ugly duckling in the street that no one wanted at the time. Needed a bit of work, bit rough and ready. It's a 480 square block, I think, or 470 weatherboard house, 2 bedroom, 1 study, 1 bathroom. Bought off an old lady who ended up staying and renting from me, and she's been there since. She's going to move out soon. I have to do a little reno to get someone in there. I bought that for 285,000. It's currently rented for 450 a week. So I think it's about an 8% yield. And today the bank's telling me it's worth about 565,000. So almost 100% return in 4 years. So that's been a good little property that I've leveraged multiple times to progress my portfolio, which has been a great starting point.
Cracking deal. So before we get into number two,
Yeah.
I want to overlay this with the 18-year land cycle. I know just to give people a little bit of a backstory on how we like to invest. If you haven't already been following, you can see that raw.
Not yet. Got it.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you can see it, they can see it. So everyone can see that. Yes. 18-year land cycle summary. It consists of 14 years of expansion, which is the first half, and then 4 years of land-driven downturn, which is like the 2008 crash or the 91 recession we had to have, like most of the baby boomers experienced, and when Donald Trump nearly went broke and had to fold on all these casinos. And in 1972, there was another land-driven downturn which nearly wiped out Harry Triguboff when he was too over-leveraged with Citibank.
Mm.
And instead of Citibank wanting their money back in the early 70s, years prior, in the late 60s, they thought he was a genius. And then when the market turned, they thought he was broke. So he decided he had half his borrowings with Citibank and the other half with ANZ. And he decided to use all his cash to buy more sites and keep building more, and went back to Citibank and basically said, well, if you want to finish the construction jobs yourself, you can have half-built construction jobs. But so these are these large land-driven downturns, which we are set in the coming years to experience the next one. And during the 14 years of expansion, there's a mid-cycle slowdown, which the last time we experienced that was COVID, and the one before that was the dot-com bust, to give context. So in the first half of the cycle, Sydney, Melbourne outperformed, like what we saw around 2010 lead up to 2018, 2019. And then typically Sydney, Melbourne then stagnant, and then people then decentralize and then look out into the more affordable, smaller size metros, being Brisbane, Perth, and Adelaide, and also the regional hubs. So that's why since around 2019 or 2020, Brisbane, Perth, Adelaide have absolutely taken off and gone gangbusters, and so have the regions.
Yep.
It's not just a coincidence that it was COVID. It is the cycle. It's part of the ripple effect. The large metros being Sydney, Melbourne, the global cities such as LA, New York, Hong Kong, Beijing, these large capitals around the world, London, all perform in the first half of the cycle. They get too expensive. People can't then afford, so they decentralize into the more affordable markets. That's when the more affordable markets in the regions take off. So we use this as a framework to overlay on sales data to work out when is the best market to buy into, to experience that capital growth, but then also to manage a portfolio by knowing when to potentially sell down an asset instead of holding it through its stagnant period, because typically markets go through years of stagnant flat growth and then a good 5 to 6 years of absolute explosion, and then they top out and go through another stagnant growth again. So that's to give a bit of the viewers some context around what we're actually talking about in the next couple of slides as we talk about Rory's portfolio. So just going back to property number one, boarded in. Sorry, before we get into that too,
yeah,
we're currently sitting on the blue marker, and the equivalent point of the cycle is 2005. So when we look at this next 20 years of sales data for all these properties Rory has, we're looking at what happened from 2005 and onwards, because that is a good indication of potentially where those markets are heading in the future based off this 18-year land cycle framework. So with that said, I'll now bring up the 20 years of sales data for Rory's first deal. So this is the house he bought in the Hunter Valley back in when, Raw?
2020 was August 2020.
Around 2020, that's where Rory picked it up. And as you can see in the first half of the cycle, it has more modest growth.
Geordie, not showing the graph. I can't see the graph.
So
Get that up.
Okay, so retake. You see
There
that
we
now?
go. Yeah.
Retake. So this is now the 20 years of sales data for Horseshoe Bend, which is in Maitland, up around regional New South Wales in the Hunter Valley, about 2 hours north of Sydney, about half an hour or so northwest of Newcastle. And I mean, we're providing this detail now because, I mean, these markets are not necessarily the best markets to invest in now, moving forward. But as Rory, you picked it up in 2020?
Yeah, mid-2020.
And you've had this nice solid growth over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
But where we are now, so just so the viewers can have some more context, we're now sitting in a similar point of the cycle in, say, 2005, 2006. Couple of years before the GFC. So this market has been flat historically in that period, and it wasn't until the second half of the cycle, around the 2017, 2018 mark, when it then took off. Like because it's a regional town, it gets the spillover effect from people coming out of the Central Coast and Newcastle who can no longer afford there because people are decentralizing out of Sydney, pushing people out into the regions, and that's when the ripple effect goes out. So with that said, what's your plan with this property moving forward?
Plan is a loose plan at the moment. So I've had the same tenant for 5 years. She's about to move out on Boxing Day. She's going into a home, and I need to do a bit of work to this property to get it rented again. So short-term plan would be to put a new bathroom in, do cosmetics, floor, paint, get it back on the market, up the rent from circa 450 up towards 600. So get a solid cash flow out of that property, which would be highly positive, around the probably 9% range. And then look, it's only a small block, so under 500 square. So granny flat's not in the option. The house is pretty built out at the front in terms of fence to fence. So building it on it would have to be a knockdown rebuild, which I'm not really inclined to do in that area because it's I guess it's in a flood zone. It hasn't flooded there since when did the flood last flooded there, Geordie, back in 1980 or something. So yeah, developing that area might be a bit trickier than others. So potentially get a new tenant there, and then maybe a couple of years sell it and roll it into a bigger asset.
Bigger deal, blocking
Bigger
units.
deal, yeah. Something that's going to go up in value that hasn't had its run yet, and provides stronger cash flow. So just keep rolling those assets into bigger assets that are fun.
Rolling, baby. Alrighty, next one, property number 2. Then, so what was the story? You bought this one with savings, hard-earned cash. Was it
Cash? Yeah. Then I was gonna top
crypto?
up.
You didn't do crypto or that bullshit.
Not this one. I was going to top up this property shortly after because I was told by the bank I had about 30, 40 grand in it. Then I went back to the bank and they wouldn't top me up. But they end up collateralizing my loans with my next property, which is kind of a learning curve. I didn't really know until I turned up to sign the contract and realized that they had stitched me up. But in the end, it was the only way I could get that next property with the income I was on and little cash at hand. So it was only in December 2020, so the same year I bought in Grafton up the coast. Bought a house, 600 square block, weatherboard, tile, 3-bedroom house for 160,000. It was vacant at the time, had been rented. I bought 160, and then I did a small little reno on it, paint, carpet. That's pretty much it. Blinds and stuff. Got a tenant in there. So now it's rented for, what's it rented for now? $410 a week. So that's about 13% gross yield on purchase, and bank valuation of 367,000. So about 130% growth in 4 years. So that's had a solid run. Same again. I've kind of pulled out of that money out of that loan to keep moving on my current purchases, more recent times.
The bank cross-collateralized
the loan, yeah.
First property and the second property without you knowing about it.
Yeah, pretty much. So I thought I'd trust in my mortgage broker, and I just kind of turned up there and I was going through the form and I was like, oh, it's got Horseshoe Bend on this contract too. He goes, oh yeah, you didn't have enough money in to pull it out and refinance, so I just put them on there. Is that all right? And I was kind of like, oh no, but he's kind of forced my hand because I'm not going to buy it. Like I'm not going to. So I had no choice. But so there had been times where I've gone to top up, and one's pulled back a little bit, and one's gone up in value. So it kind of affects how much I could top up at times. Yeah. But overall, it's just a timing thing. So I might have to wait a few more months, and then the value changes, and I can pull more money out. So it's just been. I've been fortunate enough that they've both been having significant growth, which I can still access money out of them to refinance. But I can see how that definitely slows you down. If one's stagnant and one is on the pump, it's hard to get money out. It's certainly only negative.
So gives the listeners a bit more context of cross-collateralization. It's when the banks use two properties as security for the loan.
Yeah.
It works in favour for the banks. The banks like doing it because they can tie you up, and banks like to do it so it makes it harder for you to refinance to a different bank.
Yeah, it makes you sticky.
You need both of the properties to continue to go up. So if one property goes up in value, the other one's soft or goes flat for a while, you need to revalue them both to have enough equity so then you can, even just drawing out of your second deal. So when it's not advised to cross-collateralize, and you got to um, double check your mortgage papers when they come in, because the banks and even mortgage brokers, to that matter, are
Mm.
shitty, and they'll try and do it without even really letting you know.
Yeah.
Sometimes because they just want to write the loans, and they want to keep their loan books ticking over. And sometimes if you can only service by increasing the amount of security you're providing. So learning curve is double check your loan papers
Yeah.
and make sure they're not cross collateralized, because it can slow you down in the long run and make it harder to refinance and keep moving forward. But so this is the 20 years of sales data for your second property you purchased up more mid-north coast of New South Wales.
Yeah.
What year did you pick this one up in?
December 2020. So pretty much, yeah, there.
Around here. So good
Yeah.
good timing at the start of where it started its growth cycle, where it's had a good run. So as you can see in the first half, it's stagnant, and then come the second half of the cycle when the regions perform, that's when it's gone gangbusters. And this is a 600 square meter block, this one?
Yeah, 600 square block. I've got space out the back for potential granny flat, which is maybe down the track, or if I hang on to it for that long. It's a battle axe, but I'm at the front, so I've got a property. There's my neighbour's behind me, and he has a driveway along the one side of the property, so I can access the back from his road. So it's prime for a granny flat, but whether I end up doing that or selling to roll into another asset, that's I've got options with this one more so than the first purchase, definitely.
Yeah, so it's got granny flat potential, mate. Even you could speak to council, see how lenient or how much of an appetite they have to do a development, because
Yeah,
you can get it approved, but that doesn't necessarily mean you have to build it. But you can
yeah,
pay 20 grand worth of DA submission, and if you can get it approved, then they'll give it uplift anyway to potentially
yeah,
then go to sell. You can sell it as a DA approved site.
yeah, yeah.
That's another option. That's good. So that's now 14% yield, cracking.
Yeah, rents have pumped in this area pretty hard since I bought it. When I bought it, I was rented it out for about 300, and then every year they've been topping it up about like $50 a week. So the rent demand in that area has just gone through the roof, as you would know as well.
Yeah, Rory and I and our cousin and actually a couple of clients all own the same street. So then we're on to number three. So this is
Where are we?
sort of went against the model here, Raw.
Yeah.
Explain this one.
So
They say
it,
don't
it,
go out
it, check
back
that
out
out.
nowhere, but
Check that out.
rogue. What's this one?
So bought. So after I settled with Grafton, I was still on only about it was 2020, so 55,000 a year. So I went back to CBA and I said, Eric, how much can I get? And he goes, so you've gone crazy now. You just bought to just relax a bit. You need to earn more money. I said, no, how much more can you give me? He said, I can only give you about not even 100 grand. You need to wait a bit, get some equity, go back to your job and earn more money, get a bit he said, go get like 10, 20 more grand and I'll give you some more money that you need to buy something in the 2-3 range. And I said, oh, no, I'm too impatient for that. So I went on the hunt trying to find, I found the third tier lender, and I almost bought a unit in Brizzy. And I went all the way, but then there was a 1-bedroom unit in Brisbane for 115, but it was only 38 squares. So once I had the report done, I couldn't get financing for it because it was below 40 squares. So I didn't know that at the time. So that one flunked out, and I ended up finding this house in Broken Hill for 90 grand. I ended up buying it with CBA. Just because I was hungry on yield. So I had a few conversations with other brokers from different lenders, and what I found out was with CBA, typically they go off a 6% rental yield based on the value, and that's how they work out your your servicing. When you go to a tier 3 lender, they take the actual yield. So I was told, given advice that if I had a higher yielding asset, I could go again after it easier because on paper I was making a better return. So I found this property, Broken Hill. I was like, yeah, sweet, 90 grand. Was running for I think it was 220 when I bought it. So it was like 12% from the go. But obviously, capital growth in a regional town that's so heavily backed by mining is was high risk. So I didn't do as much homework on this because I got so caught up on the yield and how fantastic it was. And in the end, it did actually turn over month to month. It did turn over good profit. Like I was only paying a month, like $300 a month in repayments because it locked the loan in for like 2.3%, 2.2 was a really low interest rate. And I was clearing like 800 a month in rent. So I was getting paid like 500 a month in rent. So it cash flowed really well and it offset the slight negative cash flow on other ones. So it was actually, at the time, it worked pretty well, but I'd suffered a bit in growth, as you can expect. So I bought it for, 90 grand in June 2021. And then I later sold this property in this year, June 2024. Pretty much as soon as my fixed interest rate came off the mortgage, I sold it pretty much straight away, and I sold it for 120,000. So over 3 years, capital growth of only 33%. But yeah, renting was about 250. So what's that? 15% gross yield. So high gross yield, low capital growth in this area.
But I mean, you still made what 10% a year, and then you use this property as a stepping stone to get you into your next deal. So
Yeah.
more of a higher, potentially a higher risk move, but I mean, you got in and out pretty well because as you can see, it's on the pump now, but look
Yeah.
up in between 2005, 6, 7 tops out, and then it switched off, baby, like most of these large regional Queensland and WA towns that are very dependent on the mining sector.
Yeah.
They boom bust. So
Yeah.
you can make a quick buck over a few years if you time them right, but if you get into them at the wrong time,
Yeah.
and say if you bought it in next, like now or over the next couple of years where people start to chase yield and then they switch off.
Yeah.
Look what happened in 2007, which will be like the equivalent of 2026. Between 2007 went from 140 grand all the way down to
80K. Yeah.
in what 8, 9 years, and then really not getting past the breakthrough that 140 grand median price until 2021. So that's from 2007 to 2021. That's
Yeah.
14 years. So that's why now I guess some of these regional towns in Queensland, WA, and even I'd say that are getting more so dangerous to the downside than the upside
Yeah.
based off historical sales data when you overlay it on the 18-year land cycle. You already got in and out like doing hopscotch or stepping
Hot
stone.
potato.
Yeah.
Hot potato. Quick, throw it away. Yeah.
And then you use that to get you into your next deal, which is where's this?
Coongouse. That's up near Rockhampton. So I end up buying this one in 2022, June.
Okay, around here.
So a year later, pretty much
Yeah.
exactly a year later. Purchased for 249,000. Currently rented for 450 a week, so about 9% gross yield return. And then recent bank valuation of 440,000, so about an 80% value increase over 2 years. So it's had a good recent run, which you can see in the graph there. Yeah.
And it's going to continue to keep running until 2027, 2028, which then it'll soften over another protracted 10, 11 year period. So what are you going to do, say in a couple of years more?
This one was a this is
How big is this block?
existing 600 block, but it was a lot of the blocks in these areas were about 1,200, 1,500. So my block was subdivided from the previous owner who lived at the back. So there's not, whilst this 600 squares, there's not a huge amount of space for a granny flat or even development on this site. So this one would probably be a buy, hold, and eventually sell once the market's kind of at that peak, which would be what, a couple of years from now potentially, and roll into another asset. So I haven't
Yeah.
had discussions with council, but I can just see the way it's laid out at the moment. There's a bit of limited options with this one, but
Yeah. And I mean, you're getting to the stage now where it makes sense to open up a trust because
yeah,
when you buy the properties in your personal name, which is, I guess, good to do. I mean, this is by no means financial advice. When you're starting out,
easier.
it's easy to get into the market quicker.
Yeah,
You can turn the loans around quicker, getting the market easier. It's more cost effective because you've got land tax thresholds. I mean, in Queensland, it's around 8 or 900,000. New South Wales, it's $1 million. Down in Victoria, it's 50 grand. But you only pay land tax once your land values surpass those thresholds. The only downside is, or I guess benefit to buying in a trust is, and downside to buying in your personal name, is when you buy in the trust, the banks don't shave the rental income and they don't add the 3% buffer to the interest rate. They take it on face value. So you'll increase your serviceability if you're buying inside trusts. So it does make sense once you bought, half a dozen in your personal name, they've had a good run, you're then looking to sell them down, pay down
mm.
debt, raise cash, roll that into a large deposit into, say, a block of units inside a trust,
Mm.
because that's when you can then keep growing and scaling and moving.
Would you have one trust per property, Geordie, or would you have multiple in one?
I mean, you can, depending how aggressive you want to go, you can have one for one, but then
Yeah,
a lot more, I guess, admin, a lot more, there's more costs come the end of the
tax.
financial year. So
Yeah,
there's a lot more moving parts, or you can just have a simple family trust. And as long as it's profitable and breaking even and is self-sufficient, and you can
yeah,
get your accountant to confirm that it is profitable by writing a letter to the bank saying that the trust is profitable, then the banks take that and exclude whatever is on your personal balance sheet. So whatever your personal loans are, or personal loans in your personal name. So then
yeah,
allows you to keep moving forward, provided you can keep getting that letter from your accountant to say that the trust is self-sufficient. So it's basically like its own business,
yeah,
and then you can keep rolling it and moving forward. But it makes sense to buy multi-family in a trust that are cash flow positive assets
yeah,
rather than
yeah,
properties that are slightly negative, because then you'll become sort of unstuck. So
yeah,
it's good to start with the growth plays like the units, townhouses, houses in your personal name, max out your land tax thresholds. So then you're not paying land tax. But then once you sort of hit those buffers, those limits, you're going to be paying land tax anyway. Then it
yeah,
makes sense to start buying them in the trust and then recycling, selling them off once you've gone through a market cycle, and rather, I guess, holding an asset once it tops out around what's it valued now?
440.
440. So we're equivalent of, say, 2005. And in 2005, this market was around 170 grand, and it still went up to probably 275. So it's got another, say, 40, 50% growth,
Yeah, it's could go to about 600
right?
potentially. Yeah,
And then you could sell it off, pay down the debt, raise cash, pay the capital gain, roll how much net? A couple hundred grand as a deposit
Yeah.
like a block of 3 or 4 units for
Yeah.
about 600-700 grand mark inside a trust that will cash flow in a market that is set for its next growth cycle.
Yeah. Instead of waiting,
Rather than
circa
holding,
10
I guess
years.
that, yeah,
Yeah.
holding a house for 600 grand at the same price point, if not slightly less once it starts to slow down,
Yeah.
for 10, 11, 12 years, you can move and shake, take the money off the table, reinvest it into another market, into a bigger asset
Mm.
in a market that's set for its next growth cycle. Because we like to buy, for listeners around, once the market has gone through a protracted period of stagnant to slightly negative growth, because typically markets go through the 10, on average 10 years, but can vary between 9 to 12, 13. But
Mm.
once they've gone through a period of 8, 9, 10 years of flat growth, it's any time where it will hook into its next growth cycle. So
What do you?
2018 and it topped out in 2007. So that went through 11 years of negative to flat. So first time to get into this market was 2018.
Yeah.
Hindsight, right? So and then gone gangbusters. So that's why we like to get into markets after usually around 8, 9 years of stagnant growth because it's literally any time. So
That's a similar to graph to what you'd see for most Brisbane suburbs, wouldn't it be, Geordie? We've had that flat 10 years and then recently, past couple of
yeah,
years, is the
yeah.
upturn.
Closer to the coast, it's not as dramatic boom bust. More so
Yeah.
regional where they are getting that ripple effect that spill out from the metros out into the regions, but then
Yeah.
also the mining sector in the second half of the cycle when globally property and construction starts to kick into gear.
Yeah.
We're now seeing China's going to start spending a lot of money on infrastructure, stimulating their economy, trying to offset the 60% tariffs that Trump's planning to whack on them. So
Yeah.
if China needs to start paying 60% tariffs to America, it's a cost. So they're going to have to raise money from somewhere. They're going to start stimulating their economy, building infrastructure, roads,
Yeah.
rail, property, high rise. We're going to go
Yeah.
through a construction boom. There's a shortage in property. There's a shortage in housing. So that's globally, not just Australia. So this big construction boom that typically happens in the second half of the cycle then
Yeah.
draws on commodities. So they need iron ore, coal to melt down the steel. They need Australian iron ore, coal, gas,
Yeah.
all those commodities that goes into the construction sector that goes to China and India. So there's the massive demand for those raw commodities that then
Yeah.
sets off the mining industry, that sets off all the mines, go gangbusters. So then all the fly in, fly out people fly out to these regional towns on big bucks and then start buying up property. And then ultimately the higher earnings gets filtered down into the benefit of land price. And that's when you see these massive booms. And then when the mines switch off, so does the property price. So this is probably coming into more so now this town in Dalby, as you can see, as we go further out, they are becoming more boom bust patterns.
Bigger swings. Yeah.
Tell us about this deal.
So my latest deal I bought September this year, 400 grand for a weatherboard house on a block about 2,020 squares. Probably been vacant for about 10, 12 years. Little old lady, Miss Evans, passed away. Probably went to market, non-board at auction. The real estate agents ended up buying it and sitting on it as land value and hope to develop it. They recently couldn't come to an agreement on what they want to do with it, so they put it on the market and ended up buying it in September off them for about 400K. Massive block. It's in a flood-free zone of the town. Dalby's pretty flat. It does tend to flood. There are areas there that experience significant flooding. This is in the centre of the town, out of the flood zone. My neighbours are same size block, of 6 2-bed, 1-bath brick townhouses. So it is zoned for medium density residential, and this council of Western Downs are they're pushing the agenda to stimulate their economy through building. DAs are currently free at the moment as a market incentive to build in this area, as they want to continue to grow their little economy out there. So yeah, as you can see, that is it on Edward Street. Across the road, there's a block, slightly bigger block of about. So they're pretty much like a concrete slab, flat pack, weatherboard house with tin roof. They go for about, I think at the moment, 280 odd. My neighbours across the road about 350 for a 2-bed, 1-bath brick home. So decent value, decent potential value in this property. So the game plan is to finish a reno. So as I said, it's been vacant for a while now. So when I walked in there, it'd been it's almost like she just packed up and left. Half her stuff was still in there. That's pretty much what it looked like when I walked in there. And they said it'd been like that for 10 years. So I spent a bit of time getting trades to go through, rip up carpets, paint, do flooring, got a new kitchen, work on the bathroom, laundry, paint outside, a bit of adjusting to the roof, pretty much everything to get it to a state which I can rent it for. But say about a month from now, I have it completely finished. Reno's probably cost me about 70 grand, 75,000. And based on the rental demand in this area, I'd be looking at probably 600 a week rent. So it's a 3-bed, 1-bathroom with a sunroom, so study. So I'd be looking at about 8% yield from the go.
Yeah, so this is a cracking deal where it's basically a cash flow development site, which will sweat equity to give it some love to, because it's basically a deceased estate.
Yeah.
So paint, flooring, kitchen, carpet. He's been flying up there second or so weekend.
Staying in motels. It's hot.
15 different chicken schnitzel's on the menus at the pubs.
Yeah. It's been good.
The cool thing is about this one is cracking yield. I know it's been a bit of a challenge the last couple of months getting it tenant ready.
Yeah.
However, timing wise, buying the property, it's going to continue to. I mean, we're no longer buying up and around Derby area because it's really had its good solid run already. I mean, you're still going to get a good, 150, 60 grand back in 2005, lead up to say just under 300. So it's good, probably at least another 80% growth, but then it'll switch off and then go down to back to that 150 grand or 200 grand mark. So timing is critical with this one, where it's gonna run, it's gonna nearly double, right? Especially with the development upside.
Yeah.
So timing wise is good. Market's going gangbusters. They tick, and then you've got it cash flowing nicely in the meantime once you've got it renovated on the market. But the cool thing is, this is really, it's a development site. So that's the house there on 200 squares, because next door, which is the same size block, has got 6 units on the same site. So that's automatically precedent being set. So basically, you go to the council and say, look, council, see next door, you approve that. I want to do exactly the same, plonk it on. So it'd be pretty straightforward to get, and also adjacent across the road, there's even more property. So now, for Rory's benefit now, upside-wise, is maybe cost 30, 40 grand to get the DA approved to do all that.
Yeah.
In the meantime, once you get it rented and it's renovated and you're getting cash flow on it, and then once that's a DA approved site, that'll then automatically probably double the value of the site, because you're also getting the growth of the actual market. So the rising tide lifts all ships, but then once you're creating further value by making it an approved development site, that'll probably double the value again. So by peak of market, you could say if you got it for say 400 grand now, 400K now. So even though, I mean, we're probably a little bit late in terms of buying it, but
Mm.
upside is it's a development site. So 400 grand, it's going to run to probably say six, 700. But then because it's a development site, you could probably even double,
Value add.
right?
Yeah.
So probably over $1 million once it's approved. And then, I mean, depending if you can get the finance and do it yourself, or if not, just sell it to a bigger developer or a builder, local builder would take it on, who would think, the market's going to continue to keep moving on,
Mm.
as they do during the final year or two of a booming market. Then they look in the rearview mirror and they think the market's just going to keep on keeping on, which it
Yeah.
never does. But most people get sucked into the FOMO and get drawn into the markets right at the top end. So that's when it would be easy enough to sell, especially as a development site.
Yeah.
Offload at peak market, and then unfortunately the buyer will be left hanging. But I reckon that's so much opportunity with that, which is awesome.
So what with the land cycle, how we're saying that the peak's going to be 26, but the run of say Dalby will continue on past the peak. What's the driving force for it going beyond that year? Is it because it's got that backing by resources, so mining and agriculture to keep it afloat?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you look at a lot of the WA regions and Queensland regions, they buck the trend in, or did historically buck the trend in 2007, 2008, 2009,
Yeah.
because the amount of stimulus that the economies are pumping into the system globally to get them out of the GFC.
Yeah.
They drop interest rates, print a lot of money, spend money on infrastructure to try and keep people in jobs. That then draws on commodities and pushes that commodity
Mm.
cycle further in the later half of the cycle. That's
Yeah.
why the regions that are dependent on the mine, so a lot up around Dalby's got a lot of coal seam
Gas and coal. Yeah.
gas and coal. So that's why they can buck the trend, and they do and it probably will again later in the decade, even though the market top is going to top out around 26 and we enter the next land-driven downturn in 2027.
Yeah.
Each separate market runs their own different race depending on their own circumstances. And in WA regional and Queensland regional, the mines will keep them pushing on for another 2 or 3 years
Yeah.
until the mines slow down and they switch off, and then that artificial froth at that top end will then
Yeah.
soften up, like what happened, say, from
It's
2009, 10 all the way back down to 2020
yeah.
in that first half of the cycle.
You can see that just in after 2006 had that flat period, and then it's gone on that run from 20 was that 28 to 2010.
Yeah, so that's why we like to use these sales data overlay on the 18-year land cycle framework and understand where they currently sit within the market, because it's not always the best time to buy the market when it's going gangbusters.
Yeah.
The best time after a protracted stagnant. So that's where you are now. What's the plans moving forward and end goal?
So that's the big one, the pipeline. I'm trying to get that one. So short term, trying to get that one tenant ready for at least February. And then I'm going to roll straight into Maitland or Horseshoe Bend reno, which is going to be fun. Just a quick cosmetic reno, get someone in there. And then pretty much try get Dolby on the go, DA ready, maybe, and then suss my options whether I sell with the DA or potentially try build. Haven't decided that one yet. And then just continue on, roll those assets into bigger cash flowing assets that will buy more, and eventually I guess the long term goal would be to roll those assets into bigger assets that will replace my income. So that's obviously the end goal. But short term goal into rolling those assets into bigger ones, to blocks of units, bigger development sites. Maybe one day I'll go out and build my own blocks of 2s, 3s potentially long term, and then replace my income with those assets and building, rather than being working for a builder, being tied to the job, kind of run my own race and see how we go. So that's the long and short of it.
Build a portfolio, so then every year you can refinance one, sell one, buy one, just keep snowballing.
Yeah, build one.
What's the biggest challenge?
I've had challenges along the way. Early in investing, after trying to find finance, and I went the ring around trying to get more money from different lenders and trying to, I guess, satisfy the bank to get more out of them in that kind of expansion period, which I'm still in now, trying to just get the most out of the bank to go again. How much debt can I get on my hands? And just how fast can I get it? How far can I push the bank? So that's been the challenge, trying to keep the bank happy. But I guess the most recent challenge is doing this reno, which is interstate. I've been going up there a few times. I went to a builder originally, and I work in building industry, so I know what the value or what the value should be for certain items. So I think I got a price which is a kind of a go away price, which now I get it, because up there they're building so much. A lot of people knocking down their house and building a duplex, selling one, renting one. So I go up there. Every time I go up there, there's a new house being built. So I can see that the market's kind of got that the demand. So my reno's been a lot of going on high pages, engaging a subcontractor, managing them directly, and then kind of managing them in between. Going up there and doing bits and pieces to keep it going, bits of carpentry work, which has been a challenge actually. But a learning curve, which I'll take into doing this next one. I'll probably learn a lot more out of this one process with this house than I thought, and then I'll take that on to doing my next one and making more streamlined and not overcapitalizing, I guess, to moving forward.
What do you say to all the other 25-year-olds? It's too hard.
It's a good question. I mean, it's always going to be hard. You got to sacrifice some things that obviously to get in at the start. I guess when I first started investing, it was kind of, I took the decision and I'm not going to use this first home buy grant. I'm going to go and use my small income of 50 grand to go buy an investment property, which I'm going to leverage into buying other assets. So I'd recommend getting in the market. If you're in the same position and you can buy now with a smaller income and buy an asset that you can leverage later to buy more or buy your dream home, I'd recommend it.
So you'd recommend investing first and delay trying to buy in some place you want to live in?
100%. I mean, like if I look at where I want to live, my dream home would be buying something in the northern beaches, say like Kelkel. They cost probably about, what's a house in Kelkel at the moment, maybe like $3-4 mil entry. $4 million. What I could afford now to buy would be a unit, which would be about 800. I don't want to live in a unit. I want to live in a house. So the only way I would afford that would be to buy assets.
Pump out all the developments, mate.
Yeah, buy assets so I can roll into those, or the cash is going to come from somewhere. So it's the only way to get to that goal would be to buy investments, using leverage to buy an investment, which go up in value, which you can draw equity or sell, and then keep rolling on to eventually get that asset, which is the long-term play.
And then eventually, if you build a portfolio big enough, then it'll make buying a $3 million asset, 15 years down the track like it's nothing. Just throw it on, just refinance. Go back to Eric at Combank and say, "Hey, Eric, we want $3 million refi, baby. Let's rock and roll.
Let's go."
And not make it such a burden.
Yeah, that's right.
Portfolio big enough, and I mean a solid 10, 15 years of investing, and then look to buy your dream place. Don't you say?
Somewhere in the beaches, along the beach. But yeah, I can start seeing being the time in the market is just outperformed any cosmetic reno I've done. Like looking at Maitland, I've got like about 200 grand in equity now, and that's just like I bought that 5 years ago, and it's in the worst worse nick than I bought it. It's got the same shit bathroom. It's fallen, needs paint. It's almost falling apart. Needed a reno when I bought it, but I've really pushed it. I've pushed it to the edge. And it's like just the land value's gone up, 100% in 5 years, just sitting on that one property. So it's just time in the market just beats it all. And having your money work harder for you in a leveraged asset it's a no-brainer.
Nice, bro. I love it. Thanks so much for coming on. I'll see you, I'm sure, very soon. Thanks everyone for watching tonight. I hope you enjoyed it. Rory's story to buying 5 properties and getting into development before the age of 25. So very inspirational. If this resonates with you, I'll put my details in the comments below. Hit us up, send me an email, give us feedback, like, subscribe, share, do whatever you got to do. Dislike, comments. This is by no means financial advice. We're not financial advisors. We're just 2 blokes having a yarn, telling our stories. Rory telling his story. So if you are looking to get in the market, make sure that you get independent legal, financial, tax advice. Go and do whatever you got to do. But if you need help buying an investment grade property and building a portfolio, hit us up. I operate as a buyer's agent, so we can source deals for you and help you on your journey building your portfolio. Until next time, thanks for watching.